Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Before the Kickoff podcast. We were off last week. We wanted to let free agency go on. We didn't want to get into it until we knew everything that was going to go down. We are now a week removed. This is the beginning of free agency, and we feel that we can now come on here, that all the major signings have been made, and we can come on here and we can discuss it in full. There is not going to be a college minute. There is not going to be a pulled over segment. It is just going to be straight free agency talk. Isn't that right, Chase Oliver?
Hell yeah, let's get into it. I mean, there was a lot that went down. A lot of teams went from, being mediocre to possibly playoff contention teams. It's very exciting what I saw during free agency this offseason.
Yes, and we're also going to get a little bit into the trades that happened before free agency. We're going to get into it all. So let's start with what was the biggest thing to me: the New England Patriots losing Wes Welker and the Denver Broncos gaining Wes Welker. Give me your thoughts on that.
Not only did they lose Wes Welker, they lost Brandon Lloyd. They don't have any receivers anymore on their team. Julian Edelman, I believe, is not coming back to the team, and plus he's unreliable. And losing Wes Welker seriously hurts the Patriots more than Patriot fans want to lead on. Yes, he never won you a Super Bowl, but he was the main driving source in that Patriots systematic offense. Now, yeah, they did sign Danny Amendola, but really, to be honest, what 16 games has this man played to really consider him a consistent threat? I mean, maybe, yes, Danny Amendola will stay healthy this whole 16 games, but until I see that, I'm not really thinking it's a big signing, because they lost their biggest weapon. Besides Rob Gronkowski, who was their biggest weapon? It was Wes Welker. And Patriot fans can be all upset they want that they lost him and just say that he's a terrible player, but it's not true. Because without Wes Welker, the Patriots would have been in position many, many years during Tom Brady's time, later on after those Super Bowls. Wes Welker is one of the best receivers that the Patriots had. I think the Broncos were smart on how much they signed him for. They didn't overpay him, because I don't think that he's worth a Mike Wallace type deal or a Percy Harvin type deal. They paid him 2 years for $17 million? They just stole Wes Welker from the Patriots, and especially Tom Brady, who made that huge pay cut thinking that Wes Welker needed a lot of money to stay with them. I just found it funny. It was kind of like an F you to the Patriots, so pretty much how I took my thoughts on it.
The most interesting thing to me, I really thought that Wes Welker was going to ultimately come back to the Patriots. But not only did he not come back, he goes to their rival. Their rival. I think everybody is unanimous. Some people may put in the Houston Texans in there. But besides the Houston Texans, everyone is unanimous when we say that the Denver Broncos and the New England Patriots are the best teams in the AFC. I think we can all agree with that. Mm-hmm. And now, one of these best teams has lost their best wide receiver. You can't dispute that. And have given their rival, somebody who we all expect for both of these teams to be in the AFC Championship next year, they've given them a very good wide receiver. And Peyton Manning is going to love having this weapon. This is the best wide receiver core he's had since he has played in the NFL. This is the best. Let's go through who he has. He has Wes Welker now. He has Demaryius Thomas. He has Eric Decker. Hell, I'll even throw Brandon Stokely in there. Tight end position. He has Jacob Tamme, Joel Dreesen. Peyton Manning is loaded. Now, it's going to be up to him to show up in the playoffs and win the games that he has to. And it's also on John Fox as well. They can't come out and be as conservative as they were in that fourth quarter and during the overtime period. They can't do that. They have to come out and they have to be aggressive, and I think Wes Welker is going to help with that. Peyton Manning, we all know since these neck surgeries, he doesn't have the greatest arm strength. But with Wes Welker, he doesn't need that. Wes Welker does his best in the short passing game, and that's what, short to intermediate, and that's what Peyton Manning does so beautifully at this stage in his career. I love this signing. Some people may argue that this signing is quite a bit random, But in this day's NFL, how much the Broncos throw the football, I mean, they don't have a running back to me. So how much these people throw the football, have to throw the football, you can't have enough weapons. I love this signing. I can't love this signing even more. Mm-hmm. They just have to really just keep their foot on the gas, keep putting up more points, and Wes Welker will do nothing but help that. And as far as the Patriots are concerned, huge weapon loss. Huge weapon loss. Danny Amendola, let me tell you something about Danny Amendola. This guy will not stay healthy. Okay, I'll go on right now. If anyone's disputing this in the comments, go ahead. I'm going on record. This guy will not stay healthy in 2013. He won't do it to me. This guy, he missed the entire 2011 season almost, and he only played 11 games this season. I mean, that's not good enough for me. And those 5 games were a huge 5 games for the St. Louis Rams. If he could have played those games, they probably could have made the playoffs. They have to find another weapon. They're getting rid of Brandon Lloyd, so they now have no legitimate weapons to me, besides a healthy Amendola, which is asking a lot from him. And I think the Patriots, I mean, they could get to the AFC Championship, probably will, but that's where it could stop from them. I don't see any way right now how they're going to get past the Denver Broncos.
Yeah, the Denver Broncos definitely put them as the Super Bowl favorites to the AFC. I mean, I would probably have to see like some crazy signing that I'd never seen before, like a random player coming back that is really good still. Like, that's the only way I see the Patriots beating the Broncos. The Broncos, seriously, not just Wes Welker. You talked about they signed DRC, Dominic Rodgers-Cromartie, for a 1-year deal. I mean, pretty much they signed a lot of team needs. The only thing that they're missing is that one running back. And really, to be honest, in this year's NFL draft, they can get that running back in the 2nd or 3rd round, depending on what they're looking for. Willis McGahee, he's getting older, but really, that's the only piece they're missing. I could potentially see the Broncos becoming one of those teams that maybe this year, I feel that they could make the Super Bowl, but they will lose it. And then the following year, they just add that one extra piece. There's probably like an offensive lineman they're missing. They also grabbed Luis Vasquez from the San Diego Chargers. Maybe they're missing that one little piece. They get that little piece, and then it's Super Bowl for them. They're in Super Bowl contention for the next 2 years. That's what I'm giving it. I say they make the Super Bowl this year and lose it, but then the next year they win it.
And another thing about the Denver Broncos, like, I mean, to me, this is something I think they should. If Eddie Lacy is there with that 25th pick or whatever they have, they need to grab him. I think Eddie Lacy, I mean, you put him with this offensive line, I mean, I'm sorry, I'm done with Willis McGahee as far as he's concerned. I think you put in Eddie Lacy, I mean, at that part in the 1st round, he's very valuable. You take him, then wow. I mean, you're looking at a Denver Broncos offense that's going to be very interesting. And you still have Ronnie Hillman that can come in and take some carries off of Eddie Lacy. But I'm just saying, wow. I mean, the Denver Broncos have a lot of options that they can do, and they only got Wes Welker for $6 million per year. I mean, I thought he was going to get at least $10 million a year. I thought going into free agency, he was going to get that much. This guy catches 100 footballs a year. He catches 100, and you only got him for $6 million. I mean, that's huge to me. That's huge.
Yeah, I agree. You signed Wes Welker for very cheap, and that is important for building a Super Bowl team. You get the right players that you need for cheap. So I feel they did a really good job here with the Denver Broncos in free agency.
Well, let's move to a team that isn't a consistent playoff winner. I mean, they haven't been in the playoffs since 2008, and that's the Miami Dolphins. The Miami Dolphins came into this free agency with a lot of cap room. Not the most. That award went to the Cincinnati Bengals, who, by the way, haven't done anything. You're going to hear me ranting about that. But the Miami Dolphins were high up in cap space. And Miami Dolphins GM Jeff Ireland knows that he's on the hot seat. And because of this, he's just gone crazy. He's signing almost everyone that he can find. Yeah. And I really want to know, what do you make of this?
In all honesty here, like you said, Jeff Ireland's on the hot seat. And the thing for Jeff Ireland is this. I mean, you're in Miami. The Dolphins is a big organization, But when you put in it, you're in Miami. Miami's a great tourist spot. It's probably a great place to live. But what also is in Miami? Yes, the University of Miami hasn't been doing too well, but you got the Miami Heat, who have only been around since like 1988, is it? I mean, when the Dolphins organization is getting overshadowed by an NBA team, that's where you have a problem. That's where you, as the Dolphins owner, Dolphins GM, say, we got to get something going. Because the Dolphins are supposed to be Miami. The Miami Dolphins are what represents Miami itself, not the Miami Heat. The Miami Heat should not be the biggest theme in Miami. It should be the Miami Dolphins. And the problem is like Jeff Ireland, I felt that like sometimes some of the deals he made, like Donnell Ellerbe. I love Donnell Ellerbe. I think he's a really solid player. But they signed him for way too much money. Philip Wheeler. Why are you signing Philip Wheeler, great outside linebacker? Why are you signing him for way too much money? I mean, they signed Brian Hartline for way too much money before the offseason begins. Mike Wallace, perfect signing. I understand if you want to waste big money on him. He was going to be looking for big money, so it makes sense why you had to give him big money for him to come. And then another signing that I liked out of the Dolphins was Dustin Keller. 1 year. They said, hey, you know what? You had a bad year with the Jets last year. You were injury prone. We know what you can do on the field, though. Prove it to us, and we will increase that money next year. And really, to be honest here, they lost Jake Long, but Jake Long wasn't really all that impressive last season. But the thing is, it just feels like, they're just signing people just because they have the cap space. And me being a Chargers fan and me knowing, like, teams signing just because you have the cap space is not a good thing. Yes, you're getting all these star-studded players, and Mike Wallace and Dustin Keller, I think, are the only smart people that they signed for a good amount of money. But oversigning for Donnell Ellerbe and cutting Carlos Dansby, I mean, to me, that right there is just questionable to me. I just feel that, like, Miami's trying their hardest to become a playoff contention team. And really, to be honest, when you look at the AFC East, the Jets, who cares? The Bills are falling off, and the Patriots are only good until Tom Brady's there. And they have their franchise quarterback already in Ryan Tannehill. I understand why they wanted to make these moves, but some of it I just felt was unnecessary.
The Miami Dolphins, I think you hit pretty much the nail on the head here. All right, I completely understand bringing in Mike Wallace. I mean, people may say that they overpaid for Mike Wallace. Somebody was going to overpay for Mike Wallace. So if you really wanted Mike Wallace, you needed to overpay for him on day number one. You needed to do that. I completely understand that. I love that. I love bringing in Brandon Gibson. I love bringing in Dustin Keller. But then when they signed Donnell Ellerbe to this contract, I mean, I don't know what everyone else saw, but what I saw was a pretty good Miami Dolphins defense. That's what I saw. I saw a defense that I actually thought was going to struggle without Vontae Davis, but they came out and they played pretty well. I mean, they still need some help with in the passing game on defense, but against the run, they were actually pretty good. Which, again, I mean, they probably should have kept Vontae Davis because of their struggles in the passing game, but I think they really overpaid for Donnell Ellerbe. I think they really overpaid for Philip Wheeler. I think they should have just brought in a couple guys, here and there to plug in, and I thought those guys could, get them to where they need to be because they're very close to being a playoff team. They kind of went a little overboard. I mean, that's what I think. I kind of think they went a little overboard. I mean, I don't know what they intend to do at running back. Now that they lost Reggie Bush, I mean, Jake Long, good job letting him go. I mean, this guy can still be a decent pass blocker, but Jake Long was terrible at run blocking this year. I don't know what happened. I mean, remember when we used to debate who was better, Joe Thomas or Jake Long? It's completely Joe Thomas at this point because currently Jake Long is nowhere to be seen. He's all the way down the list at this point. I mean, and when you take this guy with the number one overall pick, offensive lineman is supposed to be, the best position. I understand he has some injury problems. I understand that, but hell, even that, because you expect offensive linemen to stay healthy and play consistently, and if he can't do that, that's alarming. I'm not saying, he's a complete bust now. But, I mean, you drafted this guy with the number 1 pick 4 years ago, and he's gone.
Mm-hmm.
He's gone now.
That's a waste of a number 1 pick. You guys could have gotten Matt Ryan with that number 1 pick, but you wasted on Jake Long.
Exactly. So, I mean, that's interesting to me. But not to completely bash my Dolphins. I mean, I'm not cinching them in for this playoff spot just yet. I mean, people are already cinching them in. I'm not cinching them in. I mean, I would like, trust me, no one more than me would like to see the Dolphins, win the division over the New England Patriots, okay? No one more than me would love to see the Patriots finally get some competition in that division. I just don't firmly believe that most of these signings will help them do that in the long run.
Yeah, I agree. It's like when I think of teams during this free agency that could come from where they were at last season to the playoffs, it's the Tennessee Titans and the Detroit Lions. I think those are the 2 teams really that people should be talking about. They're going to the playoffs next year.
And I'm happy to hear that as a Titans fan. But let's move on to let's move on to the Minnesota Vikings. I mean, they got Greg Jennings. It's been a couple days now. They brought in Greg Jennings. I mean, we all understand they were a playoff team. And if you allow me to go first on this one, I mean, I understand. Okay, this year, okay. And I'm talking about 2013. Greg Jennings may do a good job. I mean, he could do a good job this year. But I'm telling you, by that 3rd year, dude, they're going to be regretting this. All right? I think by year 3 of this contract, Greg Jennings will be done. I think that this guy, I'm sorry, hell, even from what I saw this year, I'm not impressed by this guy anymore. And you're still going to be paying him $10 million a year when this guy's 32, 33 years old, and he could be done by then.
Yeah, because the thing about Greg Jennings signing to the Vikings, I mean, Greg Jennings doesn't really fit what the Vikings want to do with Christian Ponder. I mean, Ponder has arm strength, but it's not consistent enough. I mean, that's why it made more sense when I heard Vikings are targeting Danny Amendola. Well, yeah, I mean, Danny Amendola is kind of a white version of, not literally, but he is like Percy Harvin. He runs short routes better than he runs deep routes, you know what I'm saying? It's just that with Greg Jennings, it's like, really? That's like the best? I mean, yeah, Greg Jennings is a great wide receiver, but the thing about Greg Jennings, when you look at Green Bay, look at all the weapons that he had to help him out. Donald Driver, Jordy Nelson, back in the Super Bowl run. And then let's go on to the further years with Green Bay when they went 15-1. He had the new addition of Randall Cobb, one of the most versatile players in the game today. You also had Jordy Nelson, who got a lot better than the Super Bowl season, in my personal opinion. And then the rising force of James Jones. James Jones was a big force. This past season, he scored the most touchdowns receiving in the NFL. So, in all honesty here, Greg Jennings, what does he have on the Vikings that, besides Adrian Peterson, what does he have? Who are the other wide receivers? Like Jerome Simpson? Kyle Rudolph, I guess, but there's not really much, talent per se on the Vikings to help complement a Greg Jennings really well. And I really feel that the Vikings, not getting if they would have gotten Danny Amendola and Greg Jennings, great move by the Vikings. It helps Christian Ponder out a lot. But just Greg Jennings by himself, I don't think it's necessarily the 100% right move. I don't really think that Greg Jennings is going to improve the Vikings too much. Actually, I think because, the Vikings hurt themselves even more winning more games than they should last season because, in all honesty here, they could be saying, no playoffs next year because I'm a big believer in the Detroit Lions next year.
Let's move on to the trades. 2 specific trades, both teams in the same division, the NFC West. Let's begin with the Seattle Seahawks. Seattle Seahawks trade a first-round draft pick for the Minnesota Vikings wide receiver Percy Harvin. What were your thoughts on this trade?
I completely agree with this trade. The Seahawks needed another wide receiver. They needed another wide receiver. Sidney Rice is not a true number 1. Golden Tate, I would not say is a number 1. But the thing about Percy Harvin is he is a number 1, very versatile. In the first round, there was only 2 receivers worth even first-round evaluation. And that was Tavon Austin out of West Virginia and Cordell Patterson out of Tennessee. And Cordell Patterson is a top 15 pick, and Tavon Austin is a top 20 pick. Seahawks had no range from there. There's no point in reaching in a Keenan Allen or any other person. So with this, they decided, hey, let's go after Percy Harvin. And they did that. They re-signed Percy Harvin to a really good deal. Yes, they overpaid him, you could say, but if you want a good talent to keep around, you need to overpay these guys. And the thing is, with Percy Harvin, it helps out the team. I mean, remember, Sidney Rice and Percy Harvin in Minnesota, dangerous combination for Brett Favre. And then you add a Golden Tate in there. In all honesty, it was a good deal for both teams. The Vikings get 2 first-round picks, and they're very close to each other, 23 and 25. Easy to choose who you guys want for those first 2 rounders. And those first 2 rounders could help bolster up the Vikings' defense, which they probably need in the future, or maybe bolster up a little bit of something on the offense. But I think they would most likely go defense in those first 2 picks. In all honesty, good trade for both of those guys, and the Vikings get a 3rd-round pick next year. Both teams pretty much kind of won this trade, and it was a smart deal by Pete Carroll going after a Percy Harvin.
San Francisco 49ers trade a 6th-round pick for Ravens wide receiver Anquan Boldin. What were your thoughts on this trade?
It was a simple trade. It was like kind of like, Anquan Boldin, it was either cut him and get nothing out of it, or let's try to get something out of it. They really couldn't get anything higher for Anquan Boldin. From what I heard, the Minnesota Vikings were offering a 7th-round pick for him, and they said no because the 49ers offered a 6th-round pick. Not a lot of offers, I'm guessing, towards Anquan Boldin. But the thing is, at least the 49ers now have a second receiving option. You got Boldin, you got Crabtree, you still have Manningham, you still have Vernon Davis. It's going to work, especially with Colin Kaepernick as quarterback. That way you take off a lot of pressure on Crabtree, because Anquan Boldin, he can still play. Anquan Boldin is still a player. He's dangerous still. As a wide receiver today, he's probably one of the better secondary wide receivers in the team. A really good possession wide receiver. And Anquan Boldin going to the 49ers, really good move by the 49ers. And the Ravens, they get a 6th-round pick, but this is Ozzie Newsome we're talking about here. Ozzie Newsome knows what drafting is like, and he can find people in the 6th round.
All right, so for me, on both of these trades, let me start with Percy Harvin. I mean, the Seattle Seahawks, this is such a good move to me. Let's say they take one of these wide receivers, like Cordero Patterson will not be there at number 25. He won't be there. So maybe Keenan Allen, I'm not sure any of these guys will ever be as good as Percy Harvin is now at that spot at number 25. So I love this trade. I think he's worth a 1st-round draft pick. Hell, they traded a little more picks for him. Because he is going to fit what the Seattle Seahawks want to do, not only in the receiving core, but also in the return game, because Percy Harvin will be taking some reps there as well. They really want to win. There are some teams that are like, we have a young quarterback. We don't need to win now. No. The Seattle Seahawks want to win Super Bowls now, and that's the approach that you need to take. They're already prepared to. They got Cliff Averill too. We can go into that a little bit. Cliff Averill going to the Seattle Seahawks. Michael Bennett going to the Seattle Seahawks. I don't know what these guys are going to do with all of these defensive ends. Give my team some of these defensive ends, some of this defensive power these guys are going to have. These guys, I'll be shocked, to be honest. I'll be shocked if the Seattle Seahawks do not win that division next year. Win it. I don't think it's going to be close. I think the 49ers are going to lose maybe even both of the games to the Seattle Seahawks. We'll see how the draft goes, obviously. But for right now, the Seattle Seahawks are looking very good to me. And it's going to be very interesting to see Russell Wilson as he moves forward with this team. It's just wow to see the Seattle Seahawks right now, the way they're getting things done.
Yeah, definitely, because I see them winning both games against the 49ers. Because, if you're Pete Carroll, first of all, you didn't have a team without Percy Harvin, and you guys made it to the NFC divisional round. and you almost beat the best team in the NFC at the time, in the Atlanta Falcons. You almost beat them. That shows to me that you guys just are missing a little bit of pieces to make it to that next level. And they felt like they were missing a big-time receiver in Percy Harvin. Bam, right there, said and done. Great move by the Seattle Seahawks.
Let's go back to the regular old free agency, if you will. Let's go into the Denver Broncos situation with Elvis Dumervil. Okay, we don't know as far as this moment where he is going to sign, but you know the story right now. What are your thoughts on this story about the whole conundrum that occurred?
I thought it was weird. Like, how if you're an agent and you have a talent like Elvis Dumervil who's on a Super Bowl contending team, how in the hell do you mess up a fax like that? That right there is ridiculous to me. I mean, I'm glad Elvis Dumervil's fired his agent. I would too. How do you mess up something so important to that? I mean, really, to be honest here, now Elvis Dumervil, he's a free agent out there, and he might say, well, the Broncos, he was willing to take their pay cut, but he wants to go see where his value is elsewhere. And a lot of teams are still interested in Elvis Dumervil. I mean, he's going to probably make some good money. I mean, maybe not deserved, but he's going to make some good money because of his agent's blunder. And really, to be honest here, it was just a dumb move by the agent. The agent made a terrible decision, and in all honesty, it's the agent's fault. It's not Elvis Dumervil's fault. It's not the Broncos' fault. It's the agent's fault for messing up such an important value of information. You don't mess up a fax like that. You just don't.
It's just ridiculous. I mean, the NFLPA is going to look into this, and every time I hear the NFLPA is going to do anything, I get pissed off. Because usually, they're doing something ridiculous. But on this aspect, on this issue, I completely agree. They need to get into this because this is just ridiculous. You can't have agents running around. Basically, he lost his job. We all know he's going to sign with a team. But he basically lost his job because of this. I mean, that's very serious to me. You cannot lose your job because your agent made a mistake. He fired his agent. Now this agent, this again. Who do you see him signing with? Who do you think he can fit with next year?
I think that he can fit with a lot of teams next year. I feel one team that he should look into because like I said, it's a young playoff team. He'll get big money from them. I mean, they signed Sean Green for a good amount of money. I think the Titans could be actually an interesting fit for him, mainly because it could help out a lot of the Titans' defensive ends and defensive tackles, lay off pressure from them. More teams will be focusing on a double team on Elvis Dumervil instead of, on Ayers and many other players on that Titans defense. And really, to be honest here, he's going to get a good money from them. Bud Adams is looking to make it to the playoffs and is looking to win a Super Bowl for the Tennessee organization. So I could probably see him going to Tennessee. Another team is Tampa Bay. I feel Tampa Bay would be interested in him. I mean, him and Gerald McCoy on the same team, on the same side, would actually be a really, really deadly force with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So those are the two teams I would see that are interested in, and also the Denver Broncos. I think they're going to try to get him back. But, hey, if Tampa Bay and Tennessee are offering bigger money, you better bet Elvis Dumervil is going to go where the money goes.
It just depends on what he wants. Does he want the money or does he want to win? Hopefully, for my case, he wants the money because I do want him to come into my team. But I think this guy may just end up with New England. I think that New England, they won't offer the most money, but they're going to offer the best chance to win. They will be in that AFC Championship game next year. I mean, let's not joke ourselves. I mean, unless if Tom Brady literally tears his leg off, I mean, these people will be in the AFC Championship next year. So let's already, at least admit that. I mean, him going there, I mean, it'll be big for them. But yeah, I still like Chandler Jones. I still like what they have. I mean, it's not like they need him, but they're still going to suit after him. They think that they need that dominant pass rusher. I still have faith in Chandler Jones. I mean, I thought he played very well this year, but him going to the Patriots, it'll be fine. I mean, just for us fans that don't necessarily like the Patriots. It'll be tough to see, but the Patriots, it'll be a smart move bringing him in. I mean, no doubt there. I'm not going to deny that. It'll be a very smart move. Bringing in Elvis Dumerville, who still, to me, is one of the elite pass rushers in the NFL.
Yep.
Well, that will do it for this episode of Before the Kickoff. We're going to sign out before we before we take out too much of your day. Make sure to check out our Twitter, twitter.com/beforethekickoff. Make sure to like us on Facebook, facebook.com/beforethekickoff. Make sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel. Make sure to check out the website, beforethekickoff.com. For all of us here at Before the Kickoff, we bid you all adieu. We will see you all next week on the party.